Hello everyone, Sorry here, and today we're gonna go through all the patch notes. Riot did a stream this morning, at least for me it was like 4 a.m. for me, so I couldn't really watch it, I had to watch the VOD. So I already know all the patch notes, but we will go through them all today, and I'll kind of share my opinions regarding them. So Riot Plink, which is a developer on Runeterra, kind of shared his thought process on why they made these changes. So we're gonna go through all the changes and I'll share my opinions. We'll share our opinions on them. So the first buff is for Leona. Leona got buffed. She did get a nerf to her mana cost. She used to be 4 mana, she's now 5. But now we have Challenger keyword on level 1 and 2. So and no more Overwhelm. You used to have Overwhelm on level 2, that's gone. Now we have Challenger on level 1 and level 2, which is nice because Leona can pick off stuff from the board, gives Targon, her decks mostly a way of removal, which isn't very easy. You have Sunburst and you have Obliterate, but they are pretty costly. Leona does kind of the job. And the nice thing about it is that whenever you Daybreak, or at least I think only one round per one round, you get a barrier. So now she can trade with chunkier units and stay alive. So I think this buff is really important for Leona, better than the Overwhelm, because you really don't, most of the time you don't want to go like push damage, you just want to kind of take over the board and win from there. So I like this buff. We do have more Daybreak buffs. We have Sun Guardian, which used to cost 6 mana, now it costs 3, and it used to be much buffier. I forgot the actual stats, I think maybe 6-7, but now it's a 2-3. A 2-3 that gets +1/+1 each Daybreak. So the first time you play it, this is actually a 3-4, and from there it just keeps buffing and buffing every round, and your opponent has to deal with it eventually. So I like this buff. I think it's gonna be a staple, and the Leona deck's gonna be very important. Solari Stellacorn also got redesigned. Now it gives allies +0/+2, so it gives 2 HP on Daybreak. Very nice if you have a wide board, you set up a really strong attack. So I also like this, and the stats aren't too bad for it. It doesn't give itself 2 HP though, it only gives other allies, so it's gonna remain 3-4 once you play it. Alright, Morning Light got buffed. It now costs 3 mana, used to be 5. It gives a smaller buff though, and 1 activation, no day requirement, so you don't have to play it immediately. You can set up your board and then jam it afterwards. But yeah, it now buffs up +1/+1 rather than +2/+2. Sunburst though, so a lot of people are kind of upset about the Sunburst because it doesn't work with Lux anymore. But outside of Lux decks, this is a really good buff, especially for Leona decks or Daybreak decks. 5 cost, deal 6 damage, and you silence the unit. That's very strong. I think we're gonna be seeing Sunburst a lot in a lot of decks. Very strong card right now. Okay, Nocturne got buffed. The buff doesn't really affect Nightfall because Plink was talking about it. And so, alright, let me explain Nocturne first. So Nocturne used to be to level up when your Nightfall units attack, right? Let's say 5 Nightfall units attack, he levels up. Now he levels up along with Fearsome units, so Nightfall or Fearsome. Some people asked, let's say we play a unit that has a Nightfall effect and Fearsome effect at the same time. Does that count for 2 stats? It doesn't. So like units like Onlooker has Nightfall, has Fearsome, but it only gives 1 stat for Nocturne. So it doesn't really help increase the speed of Nocturne's level up in Nightfall. But it also makes him a good addition in Fearsome decks, like at least Fearsomes. You could add Nocturne as a final win condition. If you play him late game and you start slamming more units, you can kind of remove your opponent's blockers. Twisted Tree Line got buffed as well. Also same thing counts for Fearsomes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They added that Fearsome along with the Nightfall, but Twisted Tree Line also got another buff, the Vilemaw. Now it buffs up all the Fearsome allies on the board by +1/0. Could be a very aggressive play. as well. I like this change. This was a meme. Hate Spike reverted. Hate Spike was really strong. Though I wasn't really too hateful of Hate Spike. I think I was okay with it. It made a lot of decks playable, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it was strong, so it's understandable it gets reverted back to 2 mana. I'm not sure if we're gonna see it as much anymore. But obviously I'm very happy about the cannon revert. The second I saw cannon 3 damage Mark of the Storm, I was really mad. Like, I knew this deck is gonna be busted. I knew it's gonna take over the game. And although we don't see a high win rate for Cannon Israel, but a lot of like high level players agree that the deck is very strong, especially in a tournament. It's very difficult to beat the deck. Yeah, I'm happy that they reverted it to 2 damage. Cannon Israel, I think, is still kind of playable, but it's not tier 1 anymore. I don't think it falls under tier 1. Probably like low tier 2 maybe. But yeah, happy about, mostly happy about Mark of the Storm is out. No more worrying about it. Timelines already called it +1 mana. The reason for that is it's really strong with the improvised cards. And having Timelines as 2 mana kind of slows you down, because what you usually do is you play your Timelines on turn 1. You have a 2 mana unit you can play on turn 2. Now you can't do that. You can play it on turn 2. You don't have a unit unless it's a 1 mana unit, and kind of slows you down on your turn 2. So if you're playing against an aggressive deck, you're kind of doomed, really. You don't really want it anymore. Targon's Peak got nerfed. I'm not sure why. I mean, Targon's Peak is a bit annoying if they can set it up. I do see that. But was it really that problematic? I don't know. I don't like, you don't see it that much on ladder. Unless they have, I think they might have a meta call that Targon's Peak gonna be strong with the new buffs to these, right? And Leona maybe. Maybe they have like stats on it, and they saw that Targon's Peak will probably end up being really strong, so they just nerfed it. Viego got nerfed. I'm kind of sad about this. I do like playing Viego. He costs +1 now, so he's now 6 mana. I don't think it's an awful, like, it's not gonna kill Viego. I think that the unit is still kind of good. Obviously he got an additional stat, so it kind of evens it a little bit, but like, it's still good as, it's still much better as 5 mana 5/4 than it is right now, because you can play him a turn earlier, work on his level up, and you can, if he dies, you can still play another one a bit easier than having to play a 6 mana second Viego. But yeah, unfortunate. I think Viego got the nerf due to Viego Everland being very popular, because the Ionia version and the Shurima version aren't really that strong. It's only Viego Everland that kind of skyrocketed on ladder and kind of dominated. Silent got a huge nerf, -2 health. I'm not sure we're gonna see it that much anymore, but yeah, got big nerf, because we only were seeing it in S cannons, right? Like, even Nami decks weren't even running it. They didn't really need it. So S cannon was the only deck running it, I think. So yeah, that thing is out 100%. Harrowing nerfed, obviously. I kind of saw it coming as well, because the problem with Harrowing is that you either have deny or a right of negation, or you're doomed. Or maybe a ruination or something like that, kind of kill all the units, or bury denies. But yeah, the card is a finisher. It's I win card if you don't have the answer, so it makes sense that it's a bit expensive, because people were jamming it on turn 6. So it was kind of bothersome. You kill their units, they jam it on turn 6, they win the game. Now it takes them up to turn 7, and they have to bank the mana for it. A bit difficult to set up. So I'm happy about Harrowing getting nerfed. I think it's well deserved. Right of Calling got nerfed. Right of Calling became a very strong card. I think most Shurima as all were running it, most of them, right? Infinite Combo deck, Akshan Infinite Combo was running it. Kane was running it. I think, no, actually Kane wasn't running it, because you already can draw Kane. I think Kane wasn't drawing it. Wasn't running it. Viego runs it. What else we have? We have a lot of Shurima decks. I just can't remember what else we have that ran it. Akshan Lee Sin was running it as well. Akshan Lee Sin Shurima was running it because you could draw Lee Sin with it. So it became a very strong card. And the drawback wasn't enough, I think. Like, you do have to slay a unit. Nasus also runs it. You do have to slay a unit, which in slay decks is pretty easy. A lot of decks have really cheap units that they don't really need. They can slay them. And in the late game, you just play it for the mana cost. You don't really care anymore, and you just get the unit. So it makes sense that they nerfed it. Would it still be good? Potentially, yeah, in like late game decks. Like Nasus wouldn't really mind, I think. Nasus decks, Akshan decks wouldn't really mind. But decks that want to be a bit aggressive, I think it's doomed for them. Yeah, Riptide Sermon, very, very problematic card. I think it was the strongest card, I think. Deal 4 damage, summon a unit 3/3, and deal 2 damage to the Nexus. So it was literally doing everything. It got a nerf. It's not a huge nerf, but I mean, it's understandable. You don't want to really kill the card. They still want to make it playable. So now it only deals deals 1 damage to the Nexus. It used to do 2, and it deals -1 unit damage. So it deals now 3. It still summons a 3/3, which is really good. But now the 3 damage is very good because stuff like Gwen don't die anymore to it. A lot of units that used to die to it that have 4 HP now stay alive, which is very important. I think Gwen was really struggling into this card because it just kills it. You just can't do anything. So yeah, it makes sense. They ended up nerfing it. It was very strong. Happy about the nerf. I'm glad they kept the 3/3 Sermon. Maybe at least it keeps the card playable. I think the card stays playable, especially in Plunder decks, because Plunder does still get the effect deal 1 damage to the Nexus, which helps them out. I think Plunder decks would still run it. Pirate aggro, potentially. I think, yeah, they would still be running it. It's 1 less damage though, but it still kills the unit potentially if it's 3 HP, and you still summon a 3/3. So it could still be a thing. Like, it's not, the card is not dead. We might see it less, but it's not dead. Right, Decimate. This was the most controversial change. I think a lot of people were mad about it. I had an expectation that Funsmith was gonna get buffed by a lot, so that's why they nerfed Decimate, but apparently Funsmith didn't really get that huge of a buff. So yeah, I think the devs were kinda tired of aggro players just jamming Decimate late game and winning the game. So now they made it a bit harder to set up. 6 mana. Makes a bit sense, I guess. But yeah, it's controversial. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are saying Jace Noxus now might be a thing, like, because it activates Jace's effect. Now you can deal 8 damage with it. So I don't think it's gonna happen, but we can dream. We can hope. Champ buffs. Tahm Kench got buffed. Why wouldn't they put Leona with the champ buffs? Did they not consider it a buff? Huh. I guess they just considered a redesign or something. But yeah, Tahm Kench buff. Now he gets the acquired taste on play. So once you play him, you get the acquired taste. You used to need to wait 1 round until you can get it. This is very good against Nami decks because you could kill Nami on spot. It brings back Soraka TK, but I think Tahm Kench can exist outside of Soraka TK. I don't think he needs to be in Soraka decks. I'm thinking of Nami TK in tournaments at least, not ladder. On ladder, I think you'd still prefer Nami Twisted Fate or Nami Lee Sin Twisted Fate. But on tournament, you can, for example, bring Nami Tahm Kench Lee Sin, for example. And you can, or Nami Tahm Kench, and you put Lee Sin in a Lee Sin Akshan deck. You could do that, I guess. But to kind of keep a spot for Twisted Fate to exist in another deck, and Akshan to exist on another deck. So you can bring like 3 solid decks with Tahm Kench there to kind of, as a meta call, to counter Nami decks, for example. I think that change is good. Speeds up Tahm Kench. And the problem with Tahm Kench is I think Tahm Kench is very toxic. I think we're now hyped for it. But I think we're gonna be very annoyed very soon with Tahm Kench. Because back in Soraka TK meta, if you can't kill Tahm Kench, he's very, very annoying. You literally cannot play units because he will kill them. He will just acquire taste and you just can't do anything. You're doomed. So we'll see how this goes, but I think Tahm Kench might end up being a bit problematic. Fiora. So if you've seen my old videos, like old like a year and a half ago, I was a huge Fiora enjoyer. Fiora Shan in every tournament I would bring it. Was my favorite deck. So I was a bit sad they nerfed it. I think the nerf wasn't justifiable, but I think the only reason they actually nerfed it was because Azir Aurelia was coming out, and Fiora would have kind of destroyed Azir Aurelia. So they nerfed Fiora. Now they're bringing her back as 4 mana and 4/4. It kind of makes Fiora Shan awkward because they don't curve out anymore. But I don't think Fiora Shan is gonna be a thing. I think Fiora will probably exist in other decks now. Her stats are insane. You don't even care that much about the win condition she has, like kill 4 units. I think Fiora on her own can be very problematic, can kill some units on the board. And with the equipments now we have, you don't really need Shen's barrier anymore. You can just jam equipments on her and make her harder to kill. Akshan Kayn is a thing. So what if we play Fiora Kayn instead? And you can give her the weapons. Could be a thing. Demacia Kayn. I could see it being a thing. But yeah, I like the buff. A lot of people probably hate it. Understandable, but yeah, I like the Fiora buff. He got a buff. Now the cost reduction is permanent. This is very strong. Very, very strong. Reason for that is you literally cannot play around anything anymore. You can't play around anything. Okay? If you want to play around Wuju style, for example, usually you're like, oh, he has 3 mana, he can probably Wuju style. He's down to 2 mana, he can't Wuju style anymore. Now you can't know. They could still Wuju style you for 0 mana and then 2 mana. So this is very strong buff. You still require to have Yi on the board early on. So you have to draw Yi early. So I'm not sure if it's gonna be enough if you don't draw Yi early on. If you don't draw Yi early on, I think he's very strong. Don't have him early on, he's kind of meh. Especially late game. Ornn got a buff, now he levels up easier. Yeah, understandable. Ornn wasn't really performing well. Nothing really much to say about it. Oops. SWAIN buff. Now this is the insane one. And I already called it, by the way. I made a Twitter, I didn't call it, but I asked for it. I really wanted it. I made a tweet saying SWAIN and Leviton and should get a buff in the next patch. Like, it's been so long. And Riot buffed both of them. So I'm very happy with that. SWAIN though got a very insane buff. +1 power, which is cool. But on the level up, Overwhelm. And this is getting a lot of people kind of question marks, right? Because it was already being tested with the Great Hammer, I think it's called, when it was out, the equipment, where it gives +2/0 and Overwhelm. People were testing this with SWAIN. So now you already have it. You don't really need that. You have -1 attack. It's only because the Great Hammer gives +2. But you already have it now without needing the Great Hammer. And SWAIN isn't that difficult to level. If you play 1 flock, that's already really good for you, and you can level them up pretty easy. SWAIN can now, when leveled, attack. Your opponent has to block him with something with 5 HP, or kill him, or stun him, basically. Or he's gonna kinda destroy the whole board with a +3 damage he does. So I think SWAIN is very strong right now. We're kinda used to TF SWAIN, the Bilgewater version, but this opens SWAIN to other regions, I think. I could see Swain way more different. Actually, we have also the Battle City Swain with Timo, and we have the Freljord Swain. But now Swain can't turn into a win condition on his own. I could see him in Demacia, I'm not gonna lie. With a rally effect. Would be really nice. And like protection tools to keep him alive, make sure he doesn't die. Ionia. Maybe. We'll see. We will see how things end up with Swain. I think Swain isn't very strict to 2-3 regions anymore. He can kinda explore other regions now. Ilawi got buffed, reverted basically 1-6, which is understandable. The nerf kicked her out of the meta. Her package, like support package, got nerfed now in this patch. So it makes sense they give her something back, but I don't think it's enough. I'm not sure if it's enough. I think it's still kinda, probably still weak right now with the Riptide Sermon nerf. We'll see. But I think this is good. This is a good buff. Valmau. Didn't we see Valmau? We saw Valmau. Eula, I think that's how you pronounce it. Grant an ally spell shield or overwhelm. If you don't, grant it to me. So now you kinda have to, I guess, pick. You can pick the buff where it goes, either on her or on another unit. But I think it's permanent on her, if I'm understanding it correctly. Permanent on her. I think it's really strong though. A 3/3 for 3 mana that also gives a spell shield and overwhelm. Pretty strong, I think. Yeah, I think we could see it in new metas, or at least in decks that require you to kind of keep something safe. Maybe, I guess Pantheon would be good in Pantheon. The paper tree now buffs up attachments directly. I'm not sure it's gonna be very popular though. Like, it's still not that great, to be honest. Drake Spinner got -1 health. Now it used to be a 2/5, but now the buff now gives +2/0. I think it was 1/0, right? So now it gives 2/0. Also, they're kind of buffing a lot of spider decks, so I think probably spider aggro is gonna be really popular. Ritual of Renewal, -3 cost. It used to be 7, and -3 health to kind of compensate. I think it's strong. But it's not strong enough. I don't think it's gonna be very, very popular. It's strong. It's really good if you have a leveled up Karma, but I think this card is missing a fast speed. That's literally the only thing it's missing. I think it's, if they remove the slow speed and give it fast, this is probably one of the strongest cards. The slow speed healing isn't really great, I think. But yeah, if it was fast speed, I think I would have loved it much, much more. Redesign now this Ripper's Bay will transform your will give your the top card in your deck the lurk keyword. So now it transforms it into a lurker. This kind of takes lurk decks outside of what we're used to. We used to build water Shurima only. So now we could see way more different decks, way more different versions. Because this card fixes your lurk, your need of lurk cards, lurk units, right? It still only transforms lurk units. It doesn't transform spells, obviously. So you'd still be very reliant on units. But yeah, this might be very, very huge with the lurk archetype. Like, it doesn't keep it in a box. It lets you kind of think outside of the box. Leviton, -1 cost, but -1 health, and only pings twice now. It used to be 3. I'm kind of sad about that, a little bit, about the ping. But it's still a really strong buff. Lets you play Leviton early on turn 7. And at the same time, it lets you curve on, what's his name? Rex. Lets you play Rex afterwards on turn 8. So it's a very strong setup, right? And 7 health is still really difficult to remove. It's very strong still. So I like the Swain buff. I like this Leviton buff. The -2 ping is kind of annoying, but I guess the Swain with Overwhelm kind of evens it out. So yeah, Leviton is very strong right now with the Swain. It's still very easy to remove with Vengeance and stuff like that, but at least you can play it a turn earlier. Also, being at 7 mana late game, like turn 10, it at least lets you play other stuff with the 3 mana, right? If you have 10 mana. You're not kinda, or at least if you're like at turn 9, you can play this and still play a 2-drop, which is really nice. Because usually you play Leviton and you're like, well, now what do? I don't have anything to do. So now you have like other plays you could do. Plays as 1 charm on top of the deck makes sense because you were paying 2 mana, especially early on, for a unit that you might get maybe 4 or 3 turns later. So you would be really slow on against aggro decks, for example. So now at least you're guaranteed to have a unit next turn coming up. Could be an awful unit, but at least you're getting a unit. This got buffed, which was expected. It was really bad at 4/4. And I still think it's not gonna be very popular, to be honest. Realm Scartaker, it's kind of like Captain Yordle, but I guess it gives impact and stuff like that. And I think it buffs everything, right? So it doesn't matter the health if it's lower or higher. Grumpy Rock Bear +1 health. That's cute. It's cute with Naturalist and stuff like that. Gives you a chunky unit to kill. Funsmith. So unfortunately, I thought Funsmith's buff would be a 1/4. Apparently, they just gave it a +1 attack. I don't think it's gonna change anything. The problem with Funsmith is it's a 4 mana that's easy to kill. So if it was a 1/4, it's kinda hard to kill, which would make her much stronger. But you never really want to even attack with Funsmith. So she's kinda just sitting in on your board just for her aura. And this +1 attack, I don't think is that relevant, to be honest. Mammoth Shaman got buffed +1/+1. This is a kind of a strong buff. Because let's say play this turn 6. Turn 7 you have a 9/9. Very strong buff. Ash LeBlanc, I'm not sure we'll see it in Ash LeBlanc, to be honest, but yeah, it could be strong in Overwhelm decks potentially because it has Overwhelm keyword. -1 attack, but they gave it elusive. This is kind of a recall, like it kind of slows down your opponent. You can recall anything on the board, kind of a Will of Ionia or a Homecoming, while you set up also a unit on the board. I think it's a really strong unit. And yeah, that's about it. That's everything. Hopefully, I think the meta is gonna be Nami dominant, but with Swain's existence, it might be a bit difficult for. It might it's gonna be between Swain, Tom Kench, Nami. Those 3 decks are gonna be very strong. I guess Akshan also. Akshan is always strong, to be fair. Lee Sin is probably gonna be paired with Nami, and is still being paired with Nami. I was playing Nami Lee Sin yesterday. I went on a 12 win streak, 100% win rate. Insane deck. But yeah, that's about it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.